Guys, this last week I was able to go to an awesome movie, and it was great because I got to spend some time with my close friends Niall and C while we were there. Hell, we even ran into another friend, Britton. And I thought,
Wow.
this is awesome. I'm surrounded by really good people who love and support me. But it doesn't always feel like that. In fact, life can seem like an impossible mission.
Oh,
That's why our sponsor today, Superior Aid, is here to help. Navigating life looks differently for everyone. So when things get tough, you're not alone. Please go to superiораid.org and use promo code ManCaveMovieNight for a free session with a professional. That's superiораid.gov. Thank you so much for listening. You are loved. SuperiorAid.com is what I meant to say. Welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night.
Hello! Whoop. We are here.
That may or may not be a real website. If you need
not.
help, you can reach
Well,
out
it
to
is.
us.
It exists.
We love you.
Yeah,
But
if you need...
But maybe
But
don't.
if you go to two of those three, you'll get a site not found. But if you go to superiораid.com, you'll have the option to purchase the website. So if anyone's out there looking for, like, maybe that's the help you need. You're just looking to buy a website.
Yeah.
You could do that for $3,500.
And think about it. Superior Aid could be the name of, some Fortune 500 company within the next 30 years. It's a small investment now compared to what they'll pay you for that
For the
later
website.
on, for the website later on.
Unimaginable wealth is what
Yep.
waits for you at superiораid.com.
Just factor in inflation, dude. Got to get in early. Got to get in right now.
You can also
Well-
make an offer. So maybe you could even undercut them too.
Yeah, dude. Lowball the internet.
Yeah.
That's true. Like Niall was saying, unbelievable and unimaginable wealth is what awaits you if you do that.
True.
But unimaginable destruction is what awaits the world if Ethan Hunt doesn't assemble the right team.
Segment.
No!
Stop the, once again, nuclear attack
Holocaust
on
from
Earth
beginning. Yeah.
From the entity.
from the entity. Yeah, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning just hit theaters last week at the time of this recording. And I believe we all went and saw it, and we all
Yep.
have plenty of thoughts, enough that we thought, let's dedicate an hour to yapping about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I don't have much to say about it, so.
Well,
Well,
similar
Jared
to
and I
the
are gonna have a
movie,
great conversation.
yeah, I think if we budget about an hour for this conversation, then similar to the movie, it'll be about 45 minutes too long.
Hey.
Hey, come on. So this was a 2 hour, 45-minute runtime. The epic conclusion to the Mission Impossible franchise. Maybe, possibly, we'll get into that.
Perhaps.
I would like to hear if there were any, just general thoughts you had about the movie. Did you enjoy your time in the theater? Again, long time in the theater. Was it time well spent? Going to Lucas.
Oh, all right. Sheesh.
Well, Niall can go.
Niall didn't
No,
say
I
he
don't
said he
want
didn't
to.
have much to say.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that I
sorry.
really am going to want to say much in this episode altogether, so I might just I might watch this one.
You might hang back and just watch.
You know what? I'm going to be a listener this episode. I'm going to see what it's like in the shoes of the listeners, so I'm just going to chill over here.
Yeah, because you can't go
Alright.
back and listen to the episodes
Well, we don't.
after
we
the
don't.
fact.
Well, no
Hey, our
one has ever
listeners.
listened to an episode live.
I guess that's true.
I don't
we
think that
almost
is
did
true. I
Did
think
we do that on Instagram once
I
or
think
something?
Jared's had an ex-girlfriend in the room one time.
Oh, yeah, that's
Well,
true.
we
The
already-
odds that she was paying attention are
Zero.
Yeah,
100% zero.
Well, I feel like, yeah, that's probably the only, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could do a little giveaway and let another ex
just have
Someone
someone.
just sit in the Zoom.
Let's do a giveaway
Yeah, we'll
amongst
pool.
ex-girlfriends.
We'll pull all of our exes. and
Ex-girlfriends and bad first dates, and
put 'em- Yeah,
any of
yeah,
them
exactly.
are welcome to join the Zoom meeting with their
And
microphone
sit
turned
quietly.
off.
Camera is on though. Camera has to be on. So we
Camera
know she's
on, so we
there.
know you're watching. Yeah. All
Awesome.
right. So any
I
of
can't wait.
any
Yeah.
of my
Speaking of
exes or
45
bad
minutes
first
that are
dates
skippable.
that are listening to this show right now, if you're interested, hit me
Well,
up.
I
except
know
have
of
blocked you.
one for sure, and he's sitting across the hall from you right now.
Aw.
He's
From who? Me?
yeah, you. Because
Oh yeah.
you and Eden dated, but it didn't work out.
Well, Ian and I went on a bad first date.
Ah.
His words, not my, I thought it was a great first date, but he didn't like it. So
He is very particular with who he chooses to date.
yeah. What did you
His
think about
second
Mission
date.
Impossible: The Final Reckoning, Lucas?
I thought about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Here, let me contextualize this a little bit. I was able to watch all 8 movies, well, all 7 movies in the last week and a half leading up to this.
Woof.
And
Nice.
let me just say that is not the best way to watch these movies. Like, I really like them all, but it kind of gets to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I get it. I know. Like, I know that the mission is impossible and that the stunts are cool. Like, they are, I love them, and I just kind of wish I would not have done it like that. I kind of wish I would have just watched, like, Dead Reckoning. And then this, and then like kind of slowly
Or watched
gone
all 8
back.
of them over the last year,
Or longer,
something,
yeah,
leading
the
up
last,
to it.
yeah, exactly. It was still really fun. Like, they're really good, but 8 movies is a lot for a franchise that like doesn't like when you look at a Star Wars or like a Harry Potter or something that has a similarly large library. There's an overarching plot in some way or another. Like with Harry Potter, it's Voldemort, obviously, and then like with Star Wars, they have little 3-segment chunks. That is one thing that is great about the Mission Impossible movies, is that you can kind of pluck any of them out of there and just watch them and really enjoy them, and you don't really need a ton of context. There are characters and little details and stuff like that are beneficial, but even with this one, which I'll go into talking about, The Final Reckoning, it kind of super cuts in a lot of stuff to really be like, hey guys, The Final Reckoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because of the title, you guys, The Final Reckoning. And so I thought that was a little heavy-handed. Maybe it would have been better if I hadn't just watched all of the movies that they were cutting to, where I was like, yeah, I know, I've seen that. I just watched it this week.
Yeah. It's kind of almost to the extent some anime episodes are. Like in
Yeah.
Naruto, it happens all the time. And they even had like a scene that was grainy, like a Naruto shot or
Yeah.
a scene.
Yeah. Well, they have
Black and
they
white
have that
flashback
scene,
to something that happened that episode.
Yeah, exactly.
that happens far too often in media, just in general. Like, there are plenty of movies that do that, and TV shows where it's like, hey, remember like minutes ago the
Yeah.
thing you were watching? We're gonna show it to you again and change nothing about it. It's just the
Yeah.
same. But that's there's like that one grainy shot that they use over and over in this one and in Dead Reckoning of his love interest getting killed. And it's like they never expand on that scene. It's kind of like, oh, I wonder like what the context of this is, and they never show it. It's just the little clip. But anyway, like the first hour was the most egregious with this, where they couldn't just let a scene sit. It had to cut away to something, and it was so distracting. I was like, please, just like let a scene play out. Let us watch this as it is unfolding. And like, I get it. They shouldn't expect everyone to have done what I did and watch all 8. But also, you know, in a lot of conclusion movies, they don't cut back to all the other ones, maybe for a couple little scenes. Like when they're referencing the rabbit's foot, like, yeah, that's a great excuse to say like, hey, remember this thing? Very easily forgotten. But some of the cutting in and out was really kind of egregious. Till about like the hour point-ish, where it kind of stopped, and it was a lot better for me. Like, overall, I really did enjoy this. The stunts are awesome, and especially like the submarine scene was my favorite. That was really where I was like, all right, we're just like, there's minimal dialogue. The only thing that is said is when he's like like torpedo tube or something. That's the only thing that said in that whole scene, because I was clocking. I was like, nice. We haven't cut away once. We haven't had any dialogue. We're just like allowing this cool stunt to like just be witnessed. And so I really, really liked that a lot. They like I would say the stunts in this are pretty outlandish. You know, they're all crazy and wild, but the submarine and the plane pairing was like, oh man, I don't know. Like a lot of it is real, which is really cool. But with him just being, you know, underwater like that and just kind of plummeting, like he would collapse. He's gone.
Yeah.
But it was still cool. Like obviously, you have to suspend your disbelief for any sort of movie.
Any movie at all.
Any movie at all, yeah, you do.
Suspend
To a
your
certain
disbelief.
extent, you have to say, okay, I'm going to watch a movie, and movies just are not real life.
Yeah.
And that's
if you don't suspend your disbelief at all for a movie, you're gonna start
at
wondering.
all, you're like, whoa, what's
filmed
happening?
this?
Yeah,
Watching Pride and Prejudice, like, how did they get this on video?
yeah, exactly. So it's inherent with the media, with the format, but yeah, like I will say as well, Haley Atwell's inclusion, like Rebecca Ferguson is just a better character, and there are many times in this where I was like, man, it would be nice if Rebecca Ferguson's character was the one doing all this stuff. Her character like works, but it's always been interesting to me in these movies, like he really hasn't ever had a solid love interest except for his wife in the third one. Like they're kind of like flirty, him and Haley Atwell's character and Rebecca Ferguson's character, but none of them are like an actual love interest except for in the third one when he marries her, which has always been kind of interesting to me as well. But with Final Reckoning, like at the end of the day, like it delivered on what it needed to. I thought, like, spoiler, I thought it would have been a little bit more satisfying if Tom Cruise, like if Ethan Hunt had died at the end. But also with the way the plot was unfolding and the situations they were putting him in, I was like, it wouldn't be like super satisfying of a conclusion for him to like drown, you know, with like 30 minutes
or
left
just
in the
like
movie.
his parachute doesn't pull.
Yeah, or his
and he just
parachute doesn't go out or
splats.
something like that. It's like,
I don't know when he okay, yeah, spoilers. When it does catch on fire and like you see like the trail of smoke and he pulls it and then he's like trying to get the other one and then he disappears. And like that's
it, he dies.
I honestly think that would have been a great ending. Like for his character.
Yes.
Like just having a stunt go bad.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like, he
It
saves
just like
the day,
doesn't
he
work
still
out for him.
prioritizes saving the world. And then it's just he just doesn't make it.
That's it,
I
yeah.
don't know. I kind of like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they had kind of tweaked that scene a little bit, maybe to make it so that like he has the choice to either get this thing in or pull his chute, and he like decides to do the thing. Like
Yeah, that as well.
that would have been
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that would have been, because the thing with like having your main character die or a prevalent character, you kind of need or audiences demand that they have a triumphant exit. So with like Luther dying, it's like he doesn't just kind of fade away. He is like, you know, defusing the bomb, and so he saves the city. And so that was a bummer that, you know, he died, but also it was good. Like it's just inherent to the subject. Like more characters should have died, honestly. Benji could have died, like absolutely would have been acceptable for them all to have died. And then just like the new couple characters are like, all right, we're the new face of the IMF. And that's how they kind of resolve, instead of the little, everyone's looking at each other and like, Ethan's still around, Benji's still around. It's like, all right, fine. It just leaves the door open. And the thing that I really appreciated with No Time to Die, the Bond movie, was, spoilers for that movie if you haven't seen it, is that they kill Bond. They kill James Bond, and it's just very much a conclusion. He saves the day and is like, oh, I can't make it off the island, but the like missiles are coming to blow me up, and that's it. Like he does die. And it's so rare to get an actual conclusion, like a real solid conclusion to any sort of franchise or any sort of franchise, I'll say, any long running thing, just because what if spinoff? What if a continuation in some form or another? And so like with James Bond, you know, it kind of lends itself to that, where they're going to have a new Bond. But this could totally be like that, where they have a new main character with other than Ethan Hunt. So those are just kind of some of my more critiques. The stunts were awesome. Like, it was really fun seeing older Tom Cruise. Like, he's aging. Like, you can see it now in this one more so than some of the other ones, but he still crushes it. Like, he does a great job. And yeah, the tension, it was fun the ways they like called back, like that guy from the very first movie. It was cool how he was a prevalent character. They had Benji and like some of the other characters from the last movie, and so it all worked for me. I was entertained outside of that, like, first hour of like choppy editing and stuff. Once that kind of went away, I settled into it and really enjoyed it. I don't know how much I would like it on a rewatch, honestly. I might like it more. I can't imagine I would like it more. I might like it less just because it's so long, and I'd be like, okay, like, get to the stuff that I actually care about. But as is, I left the theater like, this was fun. It was a good time. Good time at the movies. Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, Thomas. Niall, what do you think?
Pretty much the same. I just found out that Luther dies because I was asleep for like the first hour and a half. But so, spoilers for the first hour and a half. I know everything that happens in the second half, but I'm kind of bummed to have that spoiled for me here in this episode.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. No, I did know that. I didn't fall asleep in this movie. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think that it, pacing wise, suffers even more than Dead Reckoning, I would say. Dead Reckoning's pacing is not the best, but it at least feels like it's got kind of something in each act.
Yeah.
This one felt like it only really had a second and a third act thing. And so the first part of it really was just kind of like a clip show of a bunch of the other movies, kind of like catching you up and like saying like, hey, remember all this stuff, which for me, not having watched everything super recently, wasn't as big of a deal to me. It was kind of helpful at times, but there were times where I was thinking like, we're making movies now in an age where people are gonna look stuff up afterwards, and I almost wondered if I don't know, it's an interesting thing to think about with something like this. It's a series, but it's not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's not two Mission Impossibles coming out a year, so it's like there's a lot of time that passes between these movies, a lot of time for you to forget what has happened in between. I was kind of wondering, like, should they just include this stuff and not explain it at all? How could they have done it more tactfully? Like, if they are going to explain it, is the fact that we live in a world where people are going to look stuff up afterwards enough of a justification to just kind of not explain stuff and let them figure it out later? Let like the nerds on the internet put it together and write articles about it or whatever. And I don't think that you can like rely on that, but I do think it's something at least to consider in modern filmmaking for stuff like that. Is that like with the nature of how things work now, you just maybe need to spoon feed a little bit less. I don't know. That's something I was thinking. Of course, you have to do that after the movie, which if you want to understand it as it's going, but who cares? People don't care about anything anyway. True. True. I was thinking about, of course, the submarine and the plane stunt were sights to behold. I had such a fun time during those scenes. I didn't actually suspend my disbelief. They actually did all that stuff, and I'm kind of baffled at like the scientific development of Tom Cruise's body. It's got me believing in Scientology. If he was able to do all that, then maybe there's something to it. But I did like
that was an interesting plug in the movie, and he was like,
"Yeah,
remember, guys, it was all possible thanks to Scientology."
Yeah, and then he looks directly into the camera and he says, "I really did all of this stuff because of Scientology." Yeah. And that was interesting, but
yeah, that was a weird inclusion, but it was good.
It was kind of weird, but it was especially weird because he said it in the past tense, but before any of the stunts were done. So you were kind of like, "What are you talking?" Like that was in like the first 30 minutes. But then once he did the stunts, I was like, oh, okay, I believe in Scientology now. But I thought that it was a lot of fun, had a good time with it. The pacing was rough, and that's okay. Like it's not what I would have hoped for pacing wise, especially after I didn't watch all of it with Lucas, but I watched some of Fallout with Lucas, and
Airtight.
I was remembering
So good.
Fallout is like Mission Impossible Fallout, not the TV series. I was confused about that as well. But for any of those of you who are questioning that,
No one was.
there
No, we didn't show a clip in between. As soon as you said Fallout, we didn't show clips of the movie.
right.
So
Yeah.
people were
So
like,
it was
"Wait,
tricky
what?
to know what I was talking
I don't
about.
know what he's talking
But,
about. Spoon feed it to me, please."
The pacing in Fallout is awesome. It feels like there's always some sort of actiony thing going on, and then also they do such a good job of like putting Ethan in situations where he has to like test his morals, basically. It's like he's in this situation and he has to keep the facade up, but the facade is that he's like willing to kill police and stuff. So like how does he deal with that once the opportunity is presented to him? Super cool. It makes it so that even like low key things feel really intense. And with this one, and I guess it's just like not part of the script, what they were trying to do with the movie in the first place. But after having something so interesting like that in a movie, of like that moral conflict, having a movie like this where he really is just like, there's no moral question to anything that he does. There's no like gray area. It's just kind of like, yeah, we're gonna. Well, I guess the only moral question is like, why did he get in the box with the entity, and why did anyone physically allow him to do that? Like, just an insane move. And everyone, there was like one line of like, Ethan, don't. And he was like, I'm gonna. And they were all like, okay. And it
There's
just
a lot
seemed,
of moments like that.
yeah, it seemed like,
We shouldn't
but
do this. It'll be okay. All right, we're doing
we
it.
trust
Yeah.
you.
All right.
But I don't know. I just feel like compared to Fallout, where they gave Ethan's character so much like depth, and him making the right call felt like it had consequences, and it was really interesting to like see that dynamic. With this movie, it just felt like the decisions weren't as important. It kind of felt like they were like along for the ride for a lot of it. And it's just like the entity already knows everything that's going to happen. So what you do doesn't really matter. And that's a cool prompt. It's a cool way to make the mission impossible. But at the same time, it did make it feel at certain times like it was just like, all right, like it doesn't really matter too much what they do until the end of the, like it almost feels like it sets you on a water slide where it's just like, all right, there's no change. Like you're just on this track and then the movie's going to end there. It didn't really feel like there were like questions or twists ahead, you know, which is one of the fun things about a Mission Impossible movie to me. However, the main thing that is fun to me about a Mission Impossible movie are the stunts, and the stunts in this one did not disappoint. I know the Dead Reckoning stunt got a ton of press and screen time for his jumping off the thing. Like, it was a huge deal. And then you see it in the movie and it's cool, but it's like, in terms of seeing it in a movie, kind of like, all right, like, cool. He drove off the thing and then pulled his parachute. It's cooler in real life than it is in the movie. And this one felt like it was like the plane sequence, and it was a long sequence on the planes of jumping between the planes and stuff. I loved it. And I think that it far exceeded the stunts of Dead Reckoning, at least, which is, at this point, all I'm going for. How are they going to one up the last one?
Yeah, that's fair.
Overall, I thought it was very good. I thought it was good. I thought it was very fun. So yeah, that's the end of what I have to say.
Nice.
Cool. Great. Yeah, I'll play a little bit of the villain. I think the runtime of this movie is ridiculous. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I think the only thing I'll see from this movie again is watching the YouTube stunts. Like, watching the stunts on YouTube. There's no way I sit through it. There's really nothing said or, like, really explored there's some moral questions that they just like tell you what the answer is, and no one
Yeah.
really has to like actually put effort into it. There are so many scenes that are unbearable with the dialogue. Like, this happened again, like in the Dead Reckoning as well, where you just have a cast of people in a room, and everyone gets half of a line, and then they say it in like no one's interrupting each other. It's not like an organic method
Conversation.
of delivery. Yeah, it's like, that's the this, and it means this, and then someone else says, but you gotta remember this, and then the next person finishes up the line. You know what I'm talking about. It's just every single scene, and it drove me crazy. And every time they were like, oh, I don't know if we should do this, or like, they have to make a decision. It's just Ethan says, we're gonna do it, and they're like, we shouldn't do it, and he's like, that's what the entity wants you to think, but I, Ethan Hunt, want you to think the opposite. And they're like, all right, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I felt like that a lot in this movie. The stunts, sick. We covered that.
Yep.
But I feel like some of the other big set pieces in the other movies just work so much better. Like they set it, like the one that I think is the best in the whole franchise is the underwater safe scene in Rogue Nation,
Yeah.
where he has to dive in, get the
yeah,
card
yeah,
out of the
yeah.
safe, plug in the other one. And it's very clear what's the objective. They go in, something goes wrong, and you know the stakes because they've set it up very clearly. And then he pulls it off, and it's like, holy cow, mission accomplished. That impossible mission actually worked. And this one, and same with this both parts, I just didn't feel that in anything. Right?
Yeah.
Like it always felt very possible given the characters in the setting, and it just felt like a facade of it won't work out. And so I wanted to be more stressed. Did I hate this movie? No. I know I'm talking like I really hated it.
No, you're
I'm just
not.
trying
We
to.
were all
I'm-
kind of
I'm trying to play more on the
voicing
side of.
there.
I just didn't like love it, which is hard for me in a franchise where like 4, 5, and 6 I think are perfect.
Yeah.
And so like going forward, I'll definitely revisit those plenty of times. These ones just didn't quite hit the mark. I will also say the one other thing that really kind of bothered me with both of these movies is there's a lot of really cartoony scenes. Like there's a lot of bits in the last one, the car chase felt very cartoonish.
Yeah.
And not suspenseful, but just like, cartoon, like a couple people run one way and then a bad guy like shows up and so they run the other way, and there's some hijinks. In this movie, there's a whole scene where Ethan like brutally murders multiple people off camera, and it's like Looney Tunes.
Oh yeah, that
style,
was
like,
weird.
Yeah.
That was such a
and
weird scene. I was like,
and sound effects.
What the
And
heck?
it just shows Haley Atwell reacting to it, and then he comes in. He's like, "What? Hey, what's going on?"
yeah, he steps
Oh,
into
yeah,
frame,
yeah,
and I was like,
I
why? Like that? Yeah, that was. I agree. That was weird.
just some weird choices. Overall, it really wanted to stick this landing, and I just kind of didn't really care about the movies they were really trying to make me care about.
Yeah.
And I just don't think Haley Atwell works nearly as well as Rebecca Ferguson did. And
True.
killing her off just to put in a different character I care less about is
Yeah.
an absolute tragedy, right?
Yeah.
Travesty. Bull.
Tragedy.
Yeah. Both.
Tragedy.
The word. I
It's a
love that.
tragedy.
Yeah.
Those are all
The-
my thoughts.
No,
go ahead.
yeah, I
Well, I was gonna say the context of that, like, she, I think, was just like I was looking it up, and I think she was just done with those movies. She wanted to move on to Dune and her hit show Silo on Apple
Silo.
TV Plus.
which
and-
I've by the way only heard amazing things about, but I haven't
Yeah.
watched it.
Probably good.
I've heard it's awesome.
But
Anyway.
it's just unfortunate when that affects the movies
Yeah.
we do like. There's so many examples of that throughout cinema history of a franchise kind of like killing off a character just because of real world like logistical issues, and I'm just like, oh, like it just sucks so bad.
Well, it also
that
sucks that it's
creeps in.
like I almost would like Haley Atwell's character more if there wasn't any sort of romantic connection.
Yeah,
Because
they
it kind of
shouldn't
just
have
it
teased
feels
all. It was
like
weird.
it feels like it makes Rebecca Ferguson's character's loss feel like it only matters for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's like, by the end of Dead Reckoning, he's like making goo eyes at Haley Atwell. And it's like, dude, like, she just
Not
died.
even the end.
Like,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
they
like, give
meet
it a
and Rebecca
sec.
Ferguson's still alive. And he's like, yo.
Yeah. And so by this one, it just feels like, I don't know. It feels like he doesn't have the capacity to love, you know? And it's like, I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me.
It's a little bit hard as well because that last movie really tried to set up a lot where it felt like there's going to be big consequences with the next movie, right? Benji defusing the bomb and giving out crucial information that, you know, what his weakness is and like how to, you know, really exploit that. It's just like doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's a big overarching theme of I care about my team, but it's like, yeah, like it seems like
duh.
everyone knew that already
Yeah.
going into this movie. Nothing new was found, or someone had to die for the entity to get what it wanted. Well, it's like, no, I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
but in the long run, not really.
I also
I don't know.
I want to note that Simon Pegg's performance is far and away the best performance in the movie.
1,000,000%.
He does so good.
He is
so
just
funny.
like a better actor than anyone else in this movie, to the point where it's like he's so funny, but he's able to use his comedic sensibilities in a way that also drives forward the drama and the seriousness of things. Because I think, you know, we're starting to get into writing philosophy here, whatever. But I think that comedic characters have the most potential energy to be dramatic, because when they're not being funny, you're subconsciously like, oh, this is like serious, you know?
Yeah.
And so like in Dead Reckoning, when he has to like give up that his friends are the most important thing to him, he's not joking in that moment. And you're like, oh, like this is serious and real. And so part of it is because of the character and who it is. But also Simon Pegg is just truly the best actor in these movies. And if nothing else, you get to watch him really kind of do his thing in this one. And it's very fun to watch.
Absolutely.
I would say Tom Cruise is a great actor, but I think him being involved like as a producer in this, like I feel like the pressure of these movies kind of shines through in his performance, where it's like,
Yeah.
he cares a lot about them as movies. And so it's not like Simon Pegg was just like, hey, fun for me to be in this. With like Tom Cruise, like this is kind of his only thing he's been doing for a long time. Like he'll have little other movies that come out every now and again. And, you know, obviously like he had Top Gun Maverick, which was a huge success, and Edge of Tomorrow and things like that come out. But for the last, like, I don't know, probably seven-ish years, other than Top Gun, this has been like his main gig. And so, you know, Tom Cruise has been in some crazy good movies, but it is kind of like, yeah, he's I almost feel like he wants Ethan Hunt to be just like synonymous in people's minds with Tom Cruise. Like he just wants that to be his persona, even in Top Gun, where it's like, yeah, like it's a different character certainly, but it's still Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt a little bit. So yeah, there's my piece on that. But
Yeah,
I
well-
agree that Simon Pegg was the best performance in this.
100%.
He was great.
He was cracking me up, man.
He was so
was
good.
great.
And Luther was great for what little he was in.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's always great, bro. Come on, he's so good. I love one of
I
my
think
favorite lines in the whole series is in Fallout when Michelle Monaghan's his ex-wife is like, "How's Ethan doing?" He's like, "Oh, you know, same old Ethan." I just love that. It's so fun.
I love that.
No,
Well-
his performance is great. His character in this one is just like, oh yeah, by the way, he's like about to die. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right,
Okay.
okay, like,
Well,
Bummer.
we've kind of touched on all these different movies and kind of where the highs are and where the lows are for us. So I'm going to ask my question really quick. We don't have to spend too much time with it. But I just want to know what your overall ranking is, right? If you had to say, I mean, assuming this is the finale of all the Mission Impossible movies that we're going to get, what's the best and what's the worst in your opinion? And if you feel confident, you can go ahead and jump in. Otherwise,
Cool.
I can do
I
first.
feel confident because I haven't seen some of them in such a long time.
Cool.
I feel like I have my opinions, and they are as follows. The worst one's Mission Impossible 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I think we
then-
can all agree on that one.
For me, I think probably maybe Mission Impossible 3 is next. I think it's cool.
Whoa.
It's just, lower. And then probably Final Reckoning, and then the first one, and then Dead Reckoning, and then Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout is the best one.
Nice. Yeah, very similar for me. Fallout number 1, then Rogue Nation number 2, Ghost Protocol number 3. I would say probably the first one after that. I really like the first one. I think it's a lot of fun. That's the one movie. That's the only movie where the masks they use are real. They have actual rubber masks, and it's fun. Like, it's just a lot more, I don't know. It's like campy in some ways, and like, but it just works really well, and I liked it. So number 1, then Dead Reckoning, then Final Reckoning, then 3, then 2, probably. I like 3 a lot, though.
It's kind of crazy.
3 is awesome.
Maybe
to be
3 above
totally
7 and
clear, it's the first one that I saw, and I don't know if I've seen it since I saw it.
I see.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, maybe I'd put 3 above 7 and 8, actually. I did really like 3. It was a
and it
good,
sounds
like, restart.
sounds like our top 3 is pretty much the same, and then the bottom is loosely
Yeah, just kind of.
fairly similar.
Yeah.
Because mine is also Fallout, then Rogue Nation, then Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, it's
So
just
6, 5,
yeah.
4. Those 3 are just so good. And
They're
the fact
awesome.
that they get better 4 to 5 to 6
Yeah.
is so impressive.
And it's not
love
a
it.
slight against Ghost Protocol at all.
No.
Like Ghost Protocol is amazing, and then they take what they did with that one and they're like, okay, we're gonna one up it, And so it's like it's them intentionally and successfully improving upon what came before.
Yeah.
So cool. Anyway, sorry.
I think after that I would say 3, and then 1, and then I'd say 8, 7, 2.
Gotcha.
You like 8 more than 7?
Yeah, I thought the action sequences were better.
Cool. That's fair.
I liked the disarming the bomb a lot, and I
yeah.
liked. I mean, I think the train sequence is like solid, but not as good as the plane, not as good as the submarine.
Yeah.
So-
That's the other thing with these is we talked like when we did the last movie, we talked about how that submarine scene like is out of place. Like it should have been the beginning scene
Yeah.
of this movie. Because that scene is like so good. I remember like I started Dead
It's
Reckoning again. I was
sweet.
like, oh dude, this is so sick. What a cool way to start this movie. And then it's like, but we already know what the key goes to like the whole time.
Yeah.
Like if they had just ended like teased the submarine, but also
That's
then
true.
it, like the whole time it like builds up and is like there's a submarine scene coming. So that is like cool that there's that
Yeah.
element of it, like of anticipation. I'm like, man, I can't wait to see what happens when Tom Cruise goes down to the submarine. But it just like the dramatic kind of tension there is a little bit lost because everyone's like, where did the keys go? We know what they are, but what do they do? And it's like, well, we do know. And so it's just like, because typically with these movies, we don't know. Like, there's basically never anything we know that the characters don't know. And to kind of switch that up with this one felt like it didn't really feel necessary or consistent with the other stuff. But
Yeah.
whatever. It's a great scene and it works ultimately.
It's cool. Okay, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This got touched on a little bit in, I think, your overview, Lucas. But Tom Cruise is done. Or at least Tom Cruise says he's done. Well, what does he have going on after this? Big fat nothing.
Top Gun
except
3.
Apparently another Top Gun, yeah. But, will that hold him over until the end of his life? I don't think so. I
does have
certainly
another
think
movie.
the Church of Scientology will not allow him to stop making these movies.
What about
However,
riskier business?
What about another interview with a vampire?
Yeah, dude. What about Jack Reacher?
They already made that.
Oh, dang it. Anyway, my question is, in the event that he is not forced by his religion or by a studio to come back and make more Mission Impossible movies, what do you think would be the proper and best way to continue? Because either way, the studio is going to continue using like Mission Impossible's IP and the
Yes.
IMF and whatever. So what would your preferred next steps be? Who would, you can take it any way you want. Who would you cast as the next central agent? Who, directors you want to get involved? Well, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think we ended with a really good cast, a really solid cast. Now some of them might, like Rebecca Ferguson, not want to continue after this. I totally get that. I'd say keep as many of them as possible, and then just switch them out for somebody who can fill those roles as well, comedically or otherwise. I think have Ethan Hunt take a real big backseat and work as kind of like an Alec Baldwin type character, but even more like Shadow. Like he's always played by the IMF's rules, kind of, but then has to go rogue.
Yeah,
to solve
every
everything.
single one.
So I think maybe have a whole new cast started out, or the returning cast without him start out. They're doing this mission, and then they get some tip during the mission that's leads them to a more successful mission accomplished, right? Mm-hmm. Things are going bad and they just get some hacking into a telecom or a computer screen, and Benji's like, what the, hey guys, maybe go this way or something like that, and then it works. And I'm like, well, who sent that tip? We don't know. And then they start sending more
could
tips.
it be?
Dubai, this time, this place. And they're like, okay. They go there. Something crazy, cool set piece happens. There's a Ferris wheel involved, maybe. And just kind of lead them into maybe a Act 2 reveal that it's Tom Cruise. And
I thought you were going to say the protagonist from Tenet.
It's the one or the other. But have Tom Cruise involved that way a little bit of he's behind the scenes. They still have a ton of cool set pieces and action scenes, but he's not really a big part of it. And then maybe he comes out and just I'm gonna
hit him with a little bit of a
swim with a shark, or I don't know, whatever big crazy stunt.
Yeah, he has to marry a shark.
Let him help in the final act or something. But I think really trying to pass off the reins to just the cast and let them run it as much as possible is going to be the best move. Keep him maybe in the world if he's going to still be alive, but have him be the
entity. Have him become the entity.
The informant.
Because he kept it at the end of the movie. He kept the little thing so he could just swallow it and become the entity.
That's true. Is that your pick, Lucas?
Yeah, that's my pick.
Ethan swallows the entity and becomes the entity.
Yeah, and he has powers, he can fly and punch and stuff. It's really cool.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool.
That'd be sick.
I would love a movie of Mission Impossible where he could punch.
Yeah. We haven't had it yet, but hopefully they're brave enough to one day in one of these spin-offs or whatever. But if they are going to continue these, which it would be great if they just let it rest for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But probably like Jurassic World, we're going to get an announcement that's like, hey, we're not even waiting 3 years. Here's a new another one, new cast or whatever. I think his role in Top Gun Maverick was so good. Like just his role in the team. And that's one thing that I really liked about the third one, Mission Impossible, is that he like quote unquote retires. I mean, very briefly, but to be a teacher, like to be an instructor. And I was like, dang, dude, that role for him is like perfect. That would be sick to see more of that. We get a little bit of it, but not really much at all. And so him being like especially in Maverick, when all the little tykes can't do that impossible run through the trenches, and then he's like, you know what, watch me, and he just goes out and does it. Like that scene was so cool, like in the simulation or whatever. So he's like, yeah, we could do it in the simulated environment, we can do it in real life. So if he has some sort of like maybe he's the secretary of the IMF, so it's like he has involvement but he's not actually in the trenches. Or maybe Benji's the secretary and he is like a recruiter or a teacher or like an instructor, whatever, like just more of like a supervisory role where, in the third act, he has to come in and be the one to help out, which is how it would go down. But I would say maybe like keep the younger cast, like Pom Klementieff and the other guy whose name I don't know. And like Haley Atwell can go off and do her thing. The other people can just like whatever, and like have them be a part of a new team with other characters, but mostly a reset. Like it's all right, we have these couple characters and like the older character generation, but it's like new fresh faces. Let's see if it sticks. And then you can kind of like with Creed, how Rocky is still there, but it's Creed's movie, but he's in it and then he phases out as the movies progress. You could absolutely do something like that, but the benefit with that was there was like, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 years between the last Rocky movie to when the first Creed movie was. So yeah, just let it chill. Let it chill for a while. If he's still around and interested in 10 years, have it be with a new cast. Have it be called something else and have him. He's got to be involved in some way because he's still alive and, it's just how these go. But maybe he dies in the first of the new ones or the second, whatever. And then it's just fully focused on. Once we get the introduction of the new characters, you can kill off the legacy characters, as the sequel trilogy tried to do but failed horrendously at. But, whatever, that's a whole other conversation we are not going to have today.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's similar actually to what I was thinking, except this is like perfect world for me. I would like for them to scale it back. So like still, it's still like impossible missions, super intense, whatever, but go back to like lowering down, getting through the lasers and hacking into the computer type thing. Like I feel like we've done the AI that's going to take over the world. So now it's like, you'd almost benefit from like a Bumblebee approach with the Transformers, where it's like, all right, let's scale it back. Let's have this, get John Cena in there as the new leader of the IMF. That would be awesome. That he reports to. That would be sweet. No, but like, I feel like just kind of like making it high stakes, high personal stakes, but lower like world stakes could kind of help with that reset of like, okay, this is just like, this one country is going to start a war and we need to stop that war from happening.
Yeah.
It's not like a world war where the whole world is going to end. It's just, we need this task to be completed, whatever. The other idea that I had that I still am not sold on this necessarily being the best way to do it, but I think if you nailed it, it would probably be my preferred way, is turn it into a series
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that could work.
And what you could do with that is like pacing wise, ideally, you've got like story development and a really cool action scene every episode. That way, when you're sitting down to watch it, you know, like, okay, I'm going to get something out of this. You don't, and like, you would have to really figure out the pacing for it to work, because a lot of the time a series is just an excuse for them to make the worst pacing ever and say, well, the cool stuff's coming later.
Yeah.
Like, just hold on, you know? And so
Just
if they were to
wait
do
till
it,
that finale.
like, yeah, we've already got like,
pays off so well.
yeah, we've already had bad pacing in the movies, and I wouldn't want that pacing to come over with a series. But if they did a series of even almost like every episode is like its own little task that seem kind of like they're like somewhat connected in some ways, but most of all it's like separate missions. And then by the end you kind of figure out like, oh, all of these were different elements of the plan of, you know, X bad guy who now we have to go and like thwart his final plan or whatever. I think it could work really well as a series, but you'd really have to like nail the execution of it.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's another thing with the Final Reckoning that I was kind of like, well, and Dead Reckoning is like, with rewatching them all so recently, they typically aren't whole total world annihilation. Like Fallout, even Fallout, the one preceding it is like, they're going to nuke the water supply for like a huge population, but it's still not, we're going to nuke the whole world and everyone is going to die. So, you know, scaling up like that with the finale was, you know, it almost felt like a deviation from the other stuff where it's like, the more grounded series and like, I don't know, expectations we've had work a little better in my opinion for these movies, but you know, again, it worked.
Yeah.
Like you gotta make the stakes bigger for the finales. Like I get it, and that was just the way they did it. So
Yeah, agree.
Totally.
Well, if anyone has any final thoughts about the movie or anything, we'll go get into my question, which does not have much to do with the movie at all, and just kind of a little silly jumpy jaunt that we like to do here, which is crossing over. We love hypothetical crossovers. So what's a franchise that Mike could do well with a little bit of a crossover with the Mission Impossible, with the IMF? They open the door and they see a Transformer or a G.I. Joe. Could that be
I was
one?
going to say G.I. Joe makes more sense to cross over with Mission Impossible than it does with Transformers.
Yeah, but parent company, bro, Hasbro,
Yeah.
they gotta
No.
cash in their IPs.
I know. I'm just saying
I think you're
that
right on
matchup would be better. In fact, I considered having that be my answer, but I have another answer that's obviously the answer.
Cool. All right, let's
Yeah.
have Jared
I'm gonna-
go first.
Yeah, I'll go
gonna
first
take
because
it.
it was my letterbox review.
Yes, that was what
Um,
inspired this
Oh, I didn't even see your letterbox review.
This
question.
one of my big complaints that I was thinking a lot during this movie was this is just a Fast and Furious movie. It is a Fast and Furious like vanity project for Tom Cruise instead of Vin Diesel that, you know, follows this guy with superhuman abilities, like the ability to dive hundreds and hundreds of feet below the ocean and still live. Like Vin Diesel was able to pull a building down with his bare hands on some chains. It follows,
And he flies at
this
the end of Fast X.
Yeah, it's like unbelievable stunts and like crazy set pieces where it's very action heavy, and again, you have to suspend your disbelief. Obviously, Mission Impossible's a little bit more grounded than the taking cars to space fast universe.
True,
But there's
but
one
they
thing at
started
the
more
core.
grounded. It was
They did.
just a
They were-
heist movie with drag
It was,
racing.
let's steal some like radios from that too. We're going to space.
Where you can drive a car, and when you turn the wheel, it will steer.
When the main thing as well is at the core of each of these movies, you know, in the Fast and Furious movies, it's all about family. And they said in this movie, it's my team.
Yeah.
I care about my team.
Yeah.
It's all for my team. I'm like, dude, this is just family.
Yeah.
You're just
Yep.
saying the exact same thing.
Yep.
So why not have these two very family-oriented teams go head to head? And
Oh,
they're
they
both
fight.
after
Oh.
they're both after the same like prize, whatever the cash is of the movie.
That's cool.
And the Mission Impossible team are going to be very much like, you know, we've got to be in and out quickly. We've got to like, you know, try to avoid the lasers and the cameras, and we've, you know, be very intentional and tactical about it. And then on the other side, the Fast and Furious guys are like, we're going to bring in a wrecking ball. You know what I mean?
We're gonna strap a
We
tank to
got
a
it.
747.
Exactly. And so it's like these two approaches where they're both kind of like making really good progress, and then there's a villain whoever, I don't care. The
Yeah,
villain doesn't
doesn't
matter in
matter
this
at all.
movie.
Shredder.
Yeah,
Yeah, Shredder.
yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder will be the
But the
villain.
turtles aren't there. Just
Turtles aren't there.
Shredder.
That's set up
Yeah.
for the
That's
next one.
the
Yeah,
post-credit
exactly.
scene.
There's they just see a mask hanging on.
Dude,
a
the
sewer
MacGuffin
grate or
is
something.
the MacGuffin is ooze. The Ninja Turtles haven't even been created yet.
Ah.
This ooze is gonna destroy the world.
Ooze. It's going to turn everyone into
Um,
turtles.
But most importantly, it's gonna affect my family.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. They've
I don't
got
want my family
son.
to turn
They're
into
gonna turn him
turtles.
into Michelangelo. Yeah, I think that's great. You know, that's my pitch. Head to head.
That's great.
Yeah.
Heist off between the two.
I dig it.
crews.
That's perfect. Love it. My answer is there are certain things about Fallout that make it the best one. And I think one of those things is the competition between Ethan and Henry Cavill's character. And they're kind of like same goals, different organizations that like kind of pits them against each other in certain ways, blah, blah, blah. So imagine this IP's jonesing for a restart. In fact, it's just been recently acquired. James Bond. You have a crossover event with Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt versus James Bond.
Oh, versus
Similar
again.
thing.
Wow.
I would say,
Guys
well, I don't know.
Well,
I think
I mean,
in
they've
this
kinda
one they
done-
would probably be partnered together. There is a lot of precedent for James Bond being partnered with the CIA or other members of
Yeah, MI6
you know,
is in
his-
these movies,
yeah.
like in Fallout and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
exactly.
Rebecca Ferguson was introduced, she was an agent for a different operative that was opposing Ethan Hunt.
Yeah.
So,
And
Yeah,
so like it could
works.
be something like that where it's like they have the same task but they're from different organizations, and maybe they're even the organizations pair them together and they're like, "Hey, we need the intelligence from MI6 and we, you know, like IMF and MI6 have opposite ends of the info, and so they have to like operate together, and it could be this really cool thing where both of them have like 50% of the information, and it's been set up that way intentionally so that if one of them fails, the other one can't give up the plans to the enemies or whatever. But then it also leads both of them to doubt each other and the information that each other has and whether or not it's actually enough for them to succeed on their goal. So both of them are trying to extract info from each other the entire time and blah, blah, blah. It would be sweet.
that's great.
Yeah, I dig it.
And with
That'd be really
like a
sick.
new casting of James Bond too, maybe even a new casting for the IMF. Like maybe this is
Yeah, just reset.
maybe this is the direction for the future. You know, who's to say? But I think that if you're going to cross it over with anything, it's pretty much either got to be Fast and Furious or James Bond. So I'm excited to hear what Lucas has.
Well, there
And
is
James
one.
Bond- Ethan Hunt looks at James Bond and he's like, "You got a gadget on that watch of yours?" And he says, "No, actually, this is Amazon Basics.
Oh,
Superior quality for
Yikes.
for
half the
minimal,
cost."
yeah.
Dude,
You can buy it
Jeff
for
Bezos is gonna
$24.99 at
cast
this
himself
link.
as
He like
Q.
holds up a QR code to the screen.
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, for 10 seconds.
Jeff Bezos
like
is either going to
scan
show
here,
up as
scan
as
here to
Q
buy
or
James
M,
Bond's watch.
and he's just going to give him all the gadgets and give him the rundown and do his awful laugh and
Yeah.
be like, "I've been to space." Yikes.
Anyway, Lucas.
All right. Well, there is another franchise that you are not thinking of
Ice Age.
that has not. Yes, Ice
Thought
Age.
of it.
Other
Alrighty.
one that falls in line with these movies that they have not had an entry to for a while because the last one was apparently not very good. I did not watch it. Apparently, it was reacquired recently as well. I don't even know if you've thought of this man in a while, but holy cow, Jason Bourne. I don't know if does he have a theme?
He does,
Yeah.
and it's phenomenal, but
It's
I can't
awesome.
think of it
Yeah,
off the top of my
those
head.
those movies are awesome.
It's the cello. Dum 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 dum. I can't remember how it goes, but
I don't
it's
remember
got
either.
that like yep,
Yeah,
so good.
it's really
Oh,
good. And then there's that song
chills.
at the end of the movie that goes, something like that.
I don't remember that one, but
You'd
I'll
know
look
it.
up.
It was the.
I'll know it. Yeah, it goes.
Wee.
All right, I'll check it out.
Is that the one?
Yeah, it's "Down with the Sickness" by Disturbed plays at the end of
Down with the
the
sickness.
Bourne Identity.
No, so
explain your-
that is
Explain your stupid idea.
I just wanted to shout out Jason Bourne. That's not my answer though.
Oh,
Why'd you let us go on that?
because it
tangent?
is Ice Age.
Because it's interesting. It's interesting that there's another one out there, but I'm intentionally not choosing it. The one I am choosing, however, is another one owned by Paramount. And that is, of course, and J.J. Abrams also is involved in, that is, of course, Star Trek. Now, you might be thinking, Star Trek?
Oh, wow.
What the heck? How are Mission Impossible and Star Trek gonna cross over effectively? Well, you know, they both take place on Earth. Unlike other space things where Earth is not present, Star Trek has Earth as a part of it. So,
Star Trek has Earth. I wouldn't say it takes place on Earth.
well, it exists. Earth exists.
Okay, great.
And so we have the crew of the Enterprise zap in from the future, and they're like, "Ethan, we need you and your team to come with us to help save the universe." So upping the stakes even more from just Earth.
have a question.
He's like, "This movie takes place on Earth, but we actually have movies in space too, so that you're gonna come with us for that part." Yeah.
I have a question. Will there be a quirky and silly and funny scene where Benji and Scotty interact with each other, both played by Simon Pegg?
No, that will not be present in this film.
Okay.
Well, those
shame.
Okay.
those
Yeah, that's a
characters
good
will
answer,
both be
actually.
those characters will both be recast as different actors. So Simon Pegg will
Aw.
both
not
recast.
be in it at all, and two other
That's
actors
sad.
are going to play those two different characters, just to completely avoid that situation or anyone even thinking
So
about
are
it.
here's the thing, you could also just recast all of Star Trek, or there's so many different crews that you could take
Nope,
from
has to be
Star
the
Trek.
Enterprise. Otherwise,
gotta
why
be
would
Kirk.
Has
people
to be
care
the
about
Chris
it?
Pine
It has
version.
to be
Kirk and Spock.
has to be the new
Yeah,
one.
why would people care about any other thing like Next Generation, which was wildly successful?
Too old. Can't
Or
bring
Voyager,
Patrick Stewart
which
back.
My
Yeah,
dad made me
I know,
watch.
Patrick
but what I'm
Stewart, Patrick
saying is
Stewart shows
you
up.
can
He's like
do
Picard.
other
He's like, "Hey,
teams.
Ethan Hunt." He's like, "Who are you, you old fart?" He
I'm
pushes
not-
him over and he
listen.
breaks his back, and he's like, "Oh, that's
And
not
he
a
breaks
movie."
his back and he's paralyzed.
And then he becomes Professor X. Whoa!
listen,
and
I'm
then
not
the X-Men
saying-
are in it too.
Listen, I'm not saying it's the cast of the Next Generation. I'm saying they did a different crew with the Next Generation and people loved
Oh,
it.
I see.
You could make a new crew for this one.
Yeah, but they don't want that. The people want
That's
the
true.
Enterprise.
People don't want that.
The people want
That's
the
true.
cast of the Enterprise interacting with Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt. I've heard it. I've heard the rumblings. I'm
But
on
they
the
want the cast of
subreddits.
the original Enterprise.
Yeah.
They want William Shatner. They want Leonard Nimoy, who is alive.
And the rest.
Leonard Nimoy is
Unfortunately.
no longer alive. Well, we can
Yeah,
AI
no,
him.
Yeah, we'll bring him. The Entity will play him. The Entity is good now.
The Entity is good because Ethan Hunt swallowed it.
Yeah, but he can release code to do what he wants.
To AI Leonard Nimoy.
AI
back to
Leonard
life.
Nimoy back to life into the movie. So that's cool. That's why AI is good. Yeah,
Okay.
and then
You know,
I think that's the one.
they go
think
into
that's-
space and they fight and have cool space stunts, and then they win.
I will
Space
say,
stunt. I
it
had
would
not
make
considered
sense.
the space stunt. That
It would make
probably be
sense
awesome.
that
Him
that's
hanging
the
onto the
logical next
outside
step.
of the Enterprise
As
at
it
warp speed.
warp speed, and he's like, "Whoa, this is fast!"
And he actually films himself hanging onto a spaceship traveling at the speed of light.
yeah.
That way we know
I
that's
think
what
that's
would
a good
actually
idea.
happen to a
Filmed
body.
with GoPro Hero.
Yeah, so
That would
that's
be
my
cool.
answer.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Yeah,
a fun
that's
movie to
great
watch.
answer.
Thank you, Paramount, for owning properties
Thanks,
and
Paramount.
franchises.
Yeah, we've just given 6 basically different movie options between those 2 questions that they could pursue.
They will.
And if they use any of them, I'm suing, and I will win. I have a very powerful team of attorneys.
Me too.
My team.
My team, my family of
I won't
attorneys.
turn my
I have
back
a
on my
very,
team.
I have a powerful family of attorneys
That you love.
that I love, and I would do anything for them. It's all about It's all about law.
It's all about.
That's my version of family and team. It's law.
Well,
That's cool.
you know, some people aren't as fortunate to have such a strong family or team connection in their life. Again, if you are struggling and you don't have that sense of connection, you can always reach out. Help is out there. Go to superiораid.com.
Yeah,
Again,
or
that's
.ca for our
superiораid.com.
Canadian listeners,
That's right.
or
.ca.
TO for our Tongan listeners. And those are the only ones I know.
Or TV for Telelu.
Yeah.
television.
Whoa. You just blew
Wait
my
a
mind,
second. Everyone go to superioraid.television and get
And
some
just find
free
out what
therapy.
happened.
Hopefully there's free therapy for you there. I hope you have enjoyed this discussion of Mission Impossible Part 8 and you don't feel like it was 45 minutes too long. If you liked it, share it with a friend. And as always, we'll see you on another Man Cave Movie Night Monday.
Bye bye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye, Bazinga.
Love you.
Thank you.